Welcome to the Argentinian Philosopher, ideas made simple for everyday life. It's one of the most famous phrases of all philosophy. I think, therefore I am. But what did Descartes really mean by it? And why has this simple sentence shaped centuries of thought about the mind, the self, and reality? In this video, I'll break it down, uncovering what Descartes was trying to prove, why it matters, and what it still teaches us about knowledge and existence today. Stay tuned. To truly understand Descartes' famous phrase, we need to step back into the 17th century, an era of profound uncertainty. The scientific revolution was reshaping humanity's understanding of the world. Long-held beliefs from Aristotle and medieval scholasticism were being challenged. In this climate of change, scientists and philosophers alike were asking, what can we truly know? What is certain? And what is beyond doubt? René Descartes, a French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist, became obsessed with this question. Descartes sought a foundation for knowledge that no skeptic could shake. He wasn't satisfied with relying on tradition or authority. Instead, he proposed a radical method, to doubt everything that could possibly be doubted until only what was absolutely certain remained. This was not just an intellectual exercise. Descartes was responding to a real crisis in European thought. The rise of scientific discoveries had exposed contradictions in religious and philosophical teachings. Political and religious conflicts, like the 30 Years' War, added further instability. In a world where all certainties were crumbling, Descartes wanted to rebuild philosophy from the ground up, using reason alone. So he began his famous project of doubt. What if the senses deceive us? What if everything we experience is an illusion? Could even the world itself be the trick of an evil genius? It was through this extreme skepticism that Descartes arrived at the surprising conclusion, a truth so clear, so evident, that not even the most radical doubt could undo it. So, what was this undeniable truth Descartes discovered? In the midst of doubting everything, the senses, the external world, even mathematics, one thing remained undeniable: the very fact of doubting itself. In other words, if I'm thinking, even if I'm doubting, I must exist, at least as a thinking being. This is the heart of the phrase cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. It's important to understand that this was not a grand statement about human identity or dignity. Descartes wasn't claiming that thinking was the full essence of being. Instead, he was searching for a first certainty, a foundation upon which all other knowledge could be built. And he found it in the simple realization that the very experience of thought proves the existence of the thinker. Why does this matter? Because it shifts the focus of philosophy inwards. Rather than starting with the external world or with divine revelation, Descartes starts with the subject, the self as thinking mind. This was revolutionary. It laid down the groundwork for modern notions of consciousness, subjectivity, and even personal identity. From this point, Descartes would attempt to rebuild knowledge step by step, but everything would rest on this first undeniable truth. Of course, the cogito also raises profound questions. If the thinking self is the first certainty, what is the relationship between mind and body? How do we move from inner thought to knowledge of the external world? These questions would open new frontiers and new debates in philosophy for centuries to come. Descartes' cogito is more than just a clever phrase. It marks a turning point in the history of philosophy. For centuries, philosophers had relied on external sources of certainty, religious texts, classical authorities, or sensory experience. Descartes challenged all of that. By grounding certainty in the self's capacity to think, he helped usher in a new era of philosophical reflection, one centered on reason, doubt, and individual reflection. But the Cogito also opened a Pandora's box of new problems. Chief among them was the question of how the mind relates to the body and the physical world. If my existence as thinking being is the first certainty, how can I be sure that material things exist at all? This is known as the mind-body problem, a challenge that philosophers, neuroscientists, and psychologists still wrestle with today. How do thoughts, feelings, and consciousness arise from or interact with the physical brain? What about the role of the body, emotions, relationships, and culture in shaping who we are? Later philosophers, from Hume to Merleau-Ponty, would challenge Descartes' sharp separation between mind and body. Finally, the Cogito invites us to consider the limits of reason itself. While Descartes sought certainty, many modern thinkers emphasize that knowledge is always provisional, shaped by language, culture, and context. Yet, the Cogito endures as a powerful reminder of philosophy's ability to think even the most basic assumptions about existence. Why does Descartes' Cogito still matter today? For one, it established a radical doubt that continues to shape modern philosophy and science. In an age of misinformation, deepfakes, and shifting narratives, the idea of questioning assumptions and seeking foundational truth is more relevant than ever. The Cogito reminds us that critical thinking begins with examining our own beliefs, not simply accepting what we are told. Second, Descartes' turn inward laid the groundwork for modern explorations of consciousness. Today, philosophers, neuroscientists, and AI researchers still grapple with the nature of subjective experience. What does it mean to be a thinking being? Could a machine ever say, "I think, therefore I am"? Questions about the self, thought, and consciousness remain the cutting edge of both philosophy and technology. Finally, the Cogito prompts personal reflection. In a world obsessed with external validation, achievements, possessions, success, Descartes reminds us that our first and most certain experience is inner, the awareness of thought. This invites us to reflect on who we are beyond surface appearances. So ask yourself, what does "I think, therefore I am" mean to you today? Descartes' simple phrase, "I think, therefore I am," launched a philosophical revolution. It reminds us that thinking, doubting, questioning, these are not weaknesses, but the very foundation of self-awareness and knowledge. In a world where certainty is rare, the ability to reflect critically remains one of our most powerful tools. The Cogito continued to inspire thinkers across disciplines, centuries after it was first written. In a world where certainty is rare, the ability to reflect critically remains one of our most powerful tools. The Cogito continues to inspire thinkers across disciplines, centuries after it was first written. But the true power of this idea lies in its personal dimension. Descartes invites us to turn inward, to explore the mind, to examine what we truly know, and to remain open to new understanding. Whether we are confronting philosophical questions, navigating modern technologies, or simply trying to live more authentically, the Cogito encourages us to begin with awareness, to think, to question, and to grow. Now I'd like to hear from you. How do you interpret "I think, therefore I am"? What does it mean in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the big questions of philosophy. Until next time, keep thinking and keep questioning.